Just to head off any questions about this solution up here, when we were working on these windshield wipers last night and on the motor, one of the blades, the actual rubber part, is completely separated and the metal was rubbing the glass. So Merrill came up with this brilliant solution of taking a small cardboard tube and putting it on the blade, over the edge of the blade, so that the metal's not rubbing on the glass as we were testing it last night. So that was a great solution. I'm in Forest Grove, Oregon this morning, and we made a lot of progress late last night with the windshield wipers, but we're missing the last component that we need, which is some fresh wire to wire between the fuse box up to the back of the windshield wiper switch. So I'm headed out to Harbor Freight right now. I'm using my sister's little minivan here to go to Harbor Freight and get my little freebie from my coupon that she got in the mail over the weekend for a multimeter, so that I have that for my trip back and doing some troubleshooting and get some wire, some little connectors, so that I can get the windshield wipers going today. Just came back from Harbor Freight and the auto parts store, and I purchased a bunch of different pieces and parts that are needed to get the windshield wipers going, and a few sort of emergency on the road type items. You can see the dashboard is sort of pulled apart here where we were working on the windshield wiper controls. The meters here still have to do a cleanup from our work last night. So picked up some 14 gauge wire that I need to rerun the wire from the back of the fuse box to the back of the switch for the windshield wipers. So I've got to have that. And I have an inline fuse switch so that I can put a fuse in there, since I'm running directly out of the fuse box and not going to be able to use my fuse. And Harbor Freight gives you a free multimeter, which I don't have, so that's going to be my first cheap multimeter. Probably will use this until I figure out what I'm doing and maybe upgrade down the road. And a crimper with some little connectors that I need to use to connect the wires into the fuse box in the back of the switch. And then a crimper set in case I don't have the right set of crimpers. Maybe I don't need this, but I wasn't sure. And here is a fuse set, so that I've got extra fuses. Since I'm going to be using one in there, I'm going to be short one because I only have one of each kind right now. So I figure this is going to be good for on the road, just in case I get stranded like last time. Some WD-40, which I seem to be borrowing a lot of this from my brother-in-law the last couple of days. That's it. That's what I purchased, so should have everything I need to do the repair today to get the windshield wipers working. I've got some new wiper blades that I need to mount on there as well. It's raining just a little bit right now, so probably we'll work on this after lunch. The time has come to replace the windshield wiper blades. You wouldn't believe how difficult it is to find windshield wiper blades for this step van. I went to four different auto parts stores, and none of them were able to find the blades to match this. However, the Napa auto parts store is where I had the best luck. They couldn't match the exact blades, but they had some pretty bright guys in there, and these bright guys said that if I get this particular blade that's different, I can remove the blade mechanism and attach this to the arm. So that's the solution I have to upgrade to these blades. But something good to know if you do buy one of these step vans is you've got to switch. This particular one is a 20-inch blade, and should fit up there just fine. That looks like it comes off just with a screwdriver, regular head, and a small like hex head nut on the backside. It appears I have two different bolts, two different ways of attaching these. One bolt on one side has a regular head screwdriver up here on the top, and then on the bottom it has a hex head. On the opposite side it uses Phillips head on one side. I think it also has a square headed type little nut, and both of them are rusted on there really well. And this one, the head is stripping on top with the regular head, so I've got to figure out some way to grip this on the top. I don't know, maybe use a pair of pliers or something like that. Those of you that are mechanically inclined have probably solved this a million times. For me, this is sort of daunting because it's like, I don't know, I've never seen this situation before. How do you handle something like this? Do you just grab a grinder and go at it? Do you use, what kind of tools can you use to get something that's rusted together? So what I decided to do was put some paper behind it, newspaper behind it, and spray this with WD-40. I don't want the WD-40 to get on the glass here because I put that Rain-X on it, and I'm assuming the WD-40 is probably not going to mix well with the Rain-X. So I'm going to wait here for a few seconds. Hopefully this will loosen up and I can figure out a good solution to get this off. But this is a situation where I could spin my wheels for 30 minutes to an hour just trying to figure out how to get a bolt undone. Well, that's not going to work. I tried grabbing the top of it, but it's a button head type nut on the top of this bolt, and so the pliers are just slipping off of it. The top of it's stripped, and then the bottom of it is rusted with a hex type nut. Dilemma for me. I don't even know where Merrill's grinder is, and I hate to start grinding right next to a windshield. That doesn't sound like a good combination to me. Good question. I don't know what to do. I'm going to try working on the other one. Maybe something will come to me. Fortunately, I'm stuck on the windshield wiper blades. It seems so silly. I just can't get these rusted blades off. Anyway, I'm going to go inside and try to work on the wiring of the windshield wiper motor. And we're going to run a hot wire from the fuse up to the back of the switch for the windshield wiper for the low-high. And I think I can do that, so I'm trying to get that done before Merrill gets home tonight. This is the wire I came up with. This is going to replace a faulty wire going from the fuse box up to the back of the windshield wiper switch. So basically I crimped these little ends on, and I've done this before, so this is not something new. I think I can handle that. But this little component in the center here, this is new for me. And my brother-in-law Merrill recommended this, and this is an inline fuse. Since we're sort of bypassing the fuse box, I'm going to plug this into an empty slot and bypass the fuse box. So I looked to see what type of fuse that the windshield wipers use, and it's a green 30 amp. So I have a 30 amp fuse, and it goes in this inline fuse wire here, this holder, and it has protective thing, keep it away from the weather, although I don't really need that. And then I just calculated a little bit extra, probably half again what I need to go snake it up underneath the dash and into this control panel over here. So it's got to connect to this loose control panel. Well, it appears that I made a small mistake that should be easy to remedy. I have a female connector on this end here, and it should be male. So I've got to remove this and replace it so that it can go into the fuse box and out of here. By the way, I have a master disconnect right at the batteries, and that's turned off. So I'm not monkeying around with any of this with live power going through here, so you don't have to worry about that. At least I do know that. Okay, I'm going to hook this right below this wire here in the fuse box. Power's off, by the way. This says battery up here, and I know this blue wire goes up to the fan right by the windshield wiper, so I know that this little area has power. At least I believe it does. So I'm going to run this up through the bottom of the dash here where there's access to the bottom of that panel, and then hook this end into the bottom of the switch. Okay, that should be it. I think I just have to turn back on the master power down at the battery and get my key, turn on the ignition, and try these windshield wipers, see if they work. Moment of truth. Got to put the ignition key in, turn the switch, go over here. Looks like we have power. Try the low setting, and they work. Woohoo! That's so awesome. And high and off. Amazing. I am just blown away. Now, if I can just figure out these crazy rusted blade things to get these off. It's just so frustrating. Let's get this little button head. There's a little button head on the top, and the regular head screwdriver just won't fit on there. It keeps stripping off and spinning around, and just no way to get a good grip on it with pliers or anything else. I'm just not sure what to do. Might have to do some Google research and see if I can come up with some solutions. I'm sure all of you are going to write lots of great solutions that'll happen a day after I post this, when I already get it fixed, but it's an interesting learning curve here. I'm going to table this for now because I've probably worked on it for a good 2 hours today, and that's a little bit too much time for just spinning my wheels. I think probably the next door neighbor, his name's Rob, is going to be headed home from work soon, and I think he's going to help me with an oil change on this. Apparently he owned a Cummins 5.9 before and is intimately familiar with it, and then did all his own oil changes. So anyway, so he's going to show me the ropes, and I should be able to crawl under there and hopefully do it myself with him sort of overseeing it and watching it. Rob is Beth's neighbor. I met him about, what, a week ago? Something like that?
Yep.
And he's owned a couple of these, two Cummins? Yep. He owned two Cummins 5.9s, the exact same motor, and he's offered to walk me through the oil change. As you know from previous videos, Giuseppe tried to walk me through changing the oil on a Chevy engine, so this will be my first time to do the Cummins and to learn the intricacies of this particular engine, and I'm told that it's a pretty easy thing to do. Is this going to be big enough, you think?
So what you want is the other wrench. You want the crescent wrench right there. Yep, there you go. You almost had it. It's right next to you there. It's in the worst spot. There you go. And then you just want to put that on there and loosen it. Okay. And it's probably going to be a little tight. So, you know, it doesn't need to be super tight, but it needs to be tight enough that it's not going to fall and come loose on you while you're driving, right? That would be real bad. And that's happened, and bad things happen.
Oh, the drain plug was really tight, and we had to use a ratchet, a socket set to actually get it pulled off. And then we filled up one drain pan, and we're getting a second one because there's still oil coming out. We had to plug it back up again. So we've learned a few things that are different between the Dodge and the Freightliner Cummins here in the commercial level stuff, and the big difference is where they place the oil filter. So when we're under there and you look right up next to the oil pan, there's a filter. It's exactly the same size as a standard oil filter. So we drained the oil pan and then went over and used the special, what do you call it, wrench?
Filter wrench. Yep.
Oil filter wrench. And we cranked that off. Took a lot of effort, and it pretty much destroyed and mangled the filter pulling it off.
It was super glued on there because it's original, I believe.
And then, once it came off, all of this bright,
beautiful, shiny transmission fluid came out.
Uh-oh. And we're like, whoops, wrong filter. So we sort of screwed it back on real quick.
But the filter was destroyed, so
and the
we'll
filters,
have to get a new one.
So we have to get a new filter there to get things running again. And the interesting thing is, once that's out and you look up just a little further, probably 5-6 inches, there's another filter exactly the same size, just a little bit shorter.
Taller, I think.
Taller or shorter?
Yeah, taller.
Okay,
the oil filter is taller than that.
Okay, so just a slight difference in the height.
That would be this one right
this
here.
One. So if you're ever changing these, make sure you have the right filter. And then that's the big tip for the day.
Hard to see though, so you got to look real good because didn't see it.
And the oil filter was a lot harder to get in because some hosers.
Yeah, it was real hard to get in, but it came off with just by hand.
It was almost
you didn't
hand
even need a wrench, and that's the way oil filters should be. You shouldn't have to reef on it real hard. If that's the case, somebody just over tightened it.
And then we put back in about 9.5, right around there, quarts.
Yep.
And then once we get everything back tomorrow, I've got to put this other transmission filter back in to plug everything, run it for a little bit, and I want to get on some level ground. I'm not quite level here, and measure it again, and then add probably another half of a quart. And I should be good.
Should be fantastic.
All right.
Yep.
Thank
and
you.
we put some grease lightning additive.
Oh yeah.
there.
So we put some special grease lightning additive where, oh, this stuff.
Yep.
And this is Rob's recommendation for prolonging the life of the engine, and apparently it coats the entire inside of the engine with a micro layer of Teflon.
Right, and the
super
harder
fine.
you push it, the better it works.
Yep. So I'm excited for this, and excited to have done half of the oil change. Rob helped out a lot with the muscle work with getting that filter off that was fighting us. But anyway, this has been a great experience, and tomorrow morning we should finish it up. And thank you so much, Rob, for your help.
You're sure welcome, buddy.
That's all I have for this episode. Thank you for watching, and see you next episode.